What?
Are we
Were you
getting ready for
ready?
this? Okay, yeah. What did you do
to die today? It's a minute or two to two. A thing distinctly hard to say,
and
but
hard
harder still to do. For a beat a tattoo,
that's
a
all I
quarter
knew.
to two, a rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat when the dragon will come when they sound to the drum at a minute or two to two. Okay, we're ready. Where's Laura?
I would have laughed so hard if she like popped on while we were doing this. She's like, what in the world?
She would be like, ooh, let me join.
I was going to say, she's an actress, so I'm
She
sure
knows
she
that
knew
one.
it. That's
Irish
so funny.
wristwatch. So, welcome back, guys, to Stumblin Forward. I am one of your hosts, Kristen Herman, and this is Monica Ortega.
Hey, guys.
And today we're speaking to Laura Long. Is it Laura or Laura?
It depends on who you ask. I'm from the South, so it's there they pronounce it Laura. I had one grandmother who was from New York, and then the other was from the South, and I'm named after her mother. So she would always say, "It's Laura. You sing it. You sing it."
Sing
so,
it.
I prefer Laura.
Laura. All right.
Yeah.
We're speaking to Laura today. And Laura was born and raised in Port Royal, Virginia. As a teenager, she was chosen to be part of the Governor's School of Performing Arts at the University of Richmond, where she began her studies in theater. Within that time, she was awarded Best Actress by the Virginia Theatrical Association for 2 years in a row, in 2009 and 2010 for her stage work. A student of London's Identity School of Acting, she continued her career in working in commercials, television, and film. She's best known for her recurring roles as Becky Franks in AMC's Turn, Washington Spies, as well as for All Mankind and Criminal Minds. Thank you so much for joining the show, Laura. Laura, how are you today?
Thank you. Either or, I don't care.
I'm just gonna keep singing it now. That's just how I say your name. I might redo that because I kind of stumbled over some things, but I'll do it later. But please, Laura, please tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you got everything that was beautiful. Wow.
Thank you.
So I'm from Virginia, and I really started my career here in Los Angeles. I mean, I am like the stereotypical story of Hollywood in the sense of I come from a really small town. It's like population a little over 120. Like throughout the years, either my mom or my dad have been the mayor. It's a comedy making.
This is amazing.
That's awesome.
Making. And so I was like, I looked around and I went, this is a lovely town and I love everyone here, but I want to be an actress. And so I need to go to Hollywood. So I moved to Los Angeles shortly after graduating high school. I just kind of got out of there as soon as I could and made the transition to a big city where a lot of culture shock ensued. And it's been such a fun, crazy roller coaster ride since, not just in Los Angeles, but the career itself. And I feel really fortunate to have, my roots where they are in such a small town, because when I need a break from the craziness of the city or the industry, I always say growing up in Port Royal, it felt like a prison because it is so small. But now it's really a place that just frees me the most when I need to take a breather, when I really just need to like focus and get back to my roots. So I'm really blessed to have these two places to call home.
How long have you been out here?
I'm going on 10 years, and wow, does it fly by.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Did you feel like, so you said it was a culture shock, obviously, I mean, like moving from such a small town. Did you what was the transition like moving in, like coming into Los Angeles?
I think when I first moved here, I actually lived more in the Calabasas area for the first year, and I just had to get my footing. I was fortunate enough that I was actually scouted by a manager when I was in Virginia. So when I came to LA, I at least had some reps, you know. I also, but like, unfortunately, I also think that I started going out too young. Like, I didn't know the etiquette of auditioning. I didn't know the industry. So I was really just like thrown in. But at the same time, I wasn't right in Hollywood. I wasn't right in Los Angeles. So I kind of got to know the heart of the city from afar, you know, just driving in for different auditions, kind of getting to know the different offices and different locations. But, you know, if you're talking about stumbling forward, those first 2 years especially were just, they were really, they were absolutely fundamental, but wow, if I could go back now and just hold that little teenager Laura and be like, you're okay, I would, because it's just, it's one of those things that, you know, if you only knew then what you knew now, I think I would have had a completely different experience. But then again, how else would I have grown and learned? So my first year was really just kind of being like thrown in, or like thrown out of the nest really, and just kind of developing my wings as I went while trying to survive. You know?
So did you always know you wanted to be an actress, or was it just the scout that you were like, oh, I never really thought about this, let's go to LA?
No, I always knew I wanted to be an actress. I think I was 5 when
wow.
when I was like, this is what I want to do. And that came from a conversation with my mom. I mean, like most kids, I was really curious, but I remember she was watching TV and I was like, so explain this to me. How does this, like, who are these people? Are they real? Like, because I thought they were just people who lived in the screen, who like just lived these lives.
As we all do when we're children. We're just like, there's like that they actually live there. Yeah.
Yeah, they live there. And so when my mom was like, no, they're actors and they play pretend. And I went, well, oh shit, I'm so good at that. I love that. I love playing pretend. I grow up and never stop doing this. Okay.
What was like the big like pretend game that you played? Because like I know mine. Did you always have like a game that you called? You're like, we're gonna play this, and it's like house.
I just really went through all of the Disney princesses. Because I was in Virginia, like I was really big on Ariel, because I lived on a river, so I would like, you know, be in the river pretending it's an ocean. I honestly learned how to swim because my mom pushed me in the pool and was like, here, go be Ariel. And I did. I swam, like without any training, nothing.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. You know, so I just really remember I had every single Disney princess dress. And my dad still calls me Little Princess, which he has to get rid of, but he refuses, because I would make people call me whatever princess I was that day. Just
That's awesome.
So yeah, and then I also had 2 older brothers, so I would jump between princesses and like Power Rangers, just depending on what was needed. You know, diversity.
You gotta have that diverse acting, you know. It's gotta be so many different roles, especially at 5. So,
it's like, sort of get started. I gotta show face.
You gotta go.
Sort of similar to you. I jumped out here not at a young age, but didn't know people and just kind of had to figure it out. What kind of advice would you have for somebody that is in a situation like that? Maybe not through acting, but they just find themselves like in a new city or starting a new job and just don't really know where to go.
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is to find community as soon as you can, and usually have that, you know, you want to do that wisely. Obviously, you don't want to, like, it's chancy going to a bar and be like, who wants to be my friend at 1 a.m? I wouldn't suggest that. I mean, it works for some people. I mean, so many friends at bars. Like, I've met so many now current friends at bars, but for some people, if it's like, I don't know, if you have interest, like if you play Dungeons and Dragons, find like a Dungeons and Dragons group. If you're religious and you like, maybe that goes through a church or a yoga class or a workout class or something. I think that people in LA are everybody, majority of people in Los Angeles specifically aren't from here. So everybody is really, I found rather warm and welcoming, because everyone knows what it is to be the new kid in class. So I think if you put it out there and you're really wise about how you go about finding community, whether that be a church or a workout class or, I don't know, a dodgeball team, anything. There's so many things. You have the internet to find these groups who are trying to find people like you, then to, like, you know, be vulnerable and put yourself out there, which is always scary. But yeah, community is just like it's the number one thing, because there's nothing worse than being lonely in a big city.
Yeah.
I
One thing I
agree,
always tell, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was just gonna say with going to LA, it took me a while to find my community, and when I did, I honestly was like surprised at how small it was. Like in LA, just being like, oh, I'm running into the same people. I'm experiencing, like, you know, it's just so small once you get out there.
Yeah.
Especially in the acting community, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I moved a lot, and I always told people my advice was work at a restaurant, and if you like sports, find your local team bar. That's like the first thing I did out here. I got a restaurant job, and I would or just wear your team logo and go into a Buffalo Wild Wings, because the first thing that'll happen is that team will be like, hey, get over here, and you have a table full of people.
Absolutely.
That's good advice. What are you working on now, Laura? Are you doing any projects right now?
No, just waiting for quarantine to end.
Okay,
so
that makes sense. That makes sense. Were you working on anything prior, and then it got had to?
I mean, it was just the fun pilot season craziness.
I totally forgot that it was springtime pilot season.
So can you explain a little bit of pilot season for anybody listening that doesn't really know a lot about the acting world?
Yes. So pilot season, well, casting goes kind of in highs and lows as far as how many auditions are happening. So pilot season is when shows need new content. And so they'll film a bunch of pilots, which is the first episode of a show. So whenever you're watching a series, the first episode is probably being called pilot. So if you've ever wondered there's your answer. And so, yeah, so there's just obviously so much more casting happening when everyone's putting their names in the hat and filming these pilots that either then get picked up by networks or they don't. So it's usually the height of the craziness in casting throughout the year is pilot season.
Awesome. So what are some of the highs of your 10-year experience in LA? What are some of the big things you're proud of?
Big things I'm proud of. I'm really proud of I'm going to answer this both personally and professionally. Professionally, I loved my experience on Turn. That created so many relationships, and for me that led to other work opportunities. But it also, I think, because it was the first exciting thing that I booked, it instilled in me this confidence of Turn had already been on its first season, and I knew I can't describe it, but I knew I was going to be on that show. I just, being from Virginia where it was filmed and having such a love for history, because I grew up in a house built in 1735, surrounded by history, particularly of the Revolutionary War and in that colonial era that I'm so passionate about. I was like, I have to be on this show. I feel like it's in me to be on this show. And I really fought for that audition and for that opportunity. And then when it came, it just felt so natural. It just it just felt so right. And I think that kind of it changed my mindset with auditioning and with the process of getting work as an actor. Sometimes it's very easy to fall into the trap of, I got to get the work, I got to get the job, I need to add those credits to the resume, blah, 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 blah. But if you just relax and ease into what's in me, that's innately in me, that I can bring into characters to tell a story that maybe somebody else doesn't carry with them. Like, casting's gonna see that. And so for me, I had all that history and that like passion of that time, I think, in me, that it caught someone's eye. And that's, you know, things like that are gonna happen with other roles that I've booked. And I feel like that's happened with everything that I've booked along the way. And wow, does that take off the pressure of just like showing up, doing the work, being proud of it in the room, and at the same time not losing you and what you as a person have to offer to that character. And I think once that clicked in my head, like there's just such freedom in it, and more so than any kind of credit on my resume, that is what I'm the most proud of that realization, because it makes me so much more confident in my work. It makes me so much more passionate about my work, even if it's just for 15 minutes in a room. It's exciting and it's new, and it's really the heart of it. So I think for me that light bulb moment in the past 10 years, and the fact that that light bulb moment came and really saved me from probably years of heartache within auditioning and within this business, really is my greatest accomplishment. And that wouldn't have come had I not gotten turned.
That's awesome. And that came early to you. I know like 10 years probably feels like a long time in LA, but in terms of actors, I feel like a lot of them don't realize that until so far later in their life, because they just want to believe they can play every character in the world, which is great, but you make a good point of knowing who you are.
Right.
Honestly, being able to, realize that you are bringing something to each character and bringing something that you can relate to is so valuable. And yes, obviously we all want to think that we can play every single role, but it's like, when you can really bring something, they can see it in the room. And I love the way that you said, like, even if it's 15 minutes, you know, and how much you love it going in, that's so powerful, because a lot of people can't do that. They're like, it's a waste of my time. And they have like these negative connotations going right in, but doing the work and just loving even the process of just 15 minutes in a room, like, that's awesome.
All right, so we're going to flip the script now. So what mistakes have you made that you would advise against?
I loved it. The first, oh God. The first audition I went on in LA, I was 18. No, like I had no idea what I was doing, none. And I walk into the room, and it's because I'd done a self-tape for a pilot, and so it was a producer session. And not that there's anything wrong with this, but I just didn't know how to feel out the room, which you know how to feel out a room even if you're not an actor. You know if somebody wants to socialize or not. I walked into this producer session calling everyone ma'am and sir, because I was straight from Virginia. Hi. And I shook their hands. I tried to hug one of them. It was...
Oh my God.
You tried to hug him? You tried to hug one?
I did. She was like... And
you should do that now after COVID. You should do that.
Well, and I specifically remember her saying, "Oh, it's flu season," and it wasn't flu season. So that was good. That was really good. And that was when I was like, "Oh, they're not really friendly." Okay, that was pretty bad. Mistakes I've made. Ooh, I think the biggest mistake that I've made is just dwelling on auditions, dwelling on bad ones. I now do a thing if, now when I leave, I usually tear up the script, and it's not out of anger, it's just like, I'm done with that. And there's something really freeing about tearing it. And also your name's on it, and you can't, like, you don't want anyone pulling it out of the trash and a copyright thing. So, I mean, it's just tear it. But it's really exhilarating to tear those sides up. and throw them in the trash. But for the longest time, I didn't do that. And I would just keep it in my car and kind of look over to it and be like, I'm never going to work again. They're never going to call me back in. And it would just ruin my week. So I think, those are probably two of the biggest mistakes. The third one is I went through a few years of up and downs with reps, just choosing this idea that you need to have representation. Yes, representation is fantastic, but I think I'm now so happy with my reps, but I spent few too many years with the wrong people who didn't know me or represent me well. And I would go into meetings with them interviewing me and me not interviewing them. So that's a third mistake that I would say.
That's such a big one, really, is like knowing that it's a partnership, you know, especially representation, you know. I mean, that's what I would always have people walk all over me when I was first like starting out in acting and LA. And I just, if you get scared, you get so scared, and you have to go in with like, you know, confident, no fear attitude, but also like trust yourself, trust your judgment. Another thing about reading the room.
Yeah, I feel like all of this is kind of coming back to knowing who you are and knowing what you bring to the table. If it's ripping up the script when you're done, having that confidence in auditions, you know, not needing representation, all of it is just like embodying knowing who you are. And that's so admirable, especially in this industry.
Yeah. And noting ripping up the script. I love that actual act of letting it go. That mentally and like physically helps you. That was really great advice. Great advice.
Yeah. And for me, if it's an audition that I feel really close to, I'm like, okay, you gotta let this go. Because some are harder to let go than others, because you do your work and then the rest is up to a lot of people. It's just out of your control. Truly, it's out of your control. So with the ones that I feel really that become kind of babies in a way, I do that. I rip up, I say goodbye, and then I take myself on a date. I'll like go do something fun just for me.
I love that.
That's awesome. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, in 5 years. Hopefully still working. I feel like, in fact, like with every year I get more confident in my craft as well, because I never stop studying. Right now I'm doing online classes at Identity. So just to keep me, you know, keep me sharp during this time of while the industry shut down, you know, like they don't care if it's a pandemic. When everything opens up again, you have to be ready to show up. So I think in the next 5 years, I still see myself just still becoming a better actor, becoming a better person, hopefully working more. Of course, everyone wants that. But if that doesn't happen, I also have things in my personal life that I am really excited for. I think that I'll be married in the next 5 years. I'm with a partner that I'm really happy with. And so I also think that the more you enjoy your like personal life and this career, this thing you've always wanted, suddenly it's just a thing. It's just a part of all the other moving pieces. And it's just your job. And sure, you love it, and sure, it's a passion. It's a job that requires a certain amount of passion that maybe a 9-to-5 wouldn't. But I think in the next 5 years, I'll definitely ease more into those other aspects of my life that I'm just as equally passionate about. And so it's not as high up on the pedestal. And so I'm looking forward to both aspects of life in that sense.
That feels like a good, healthy balance. So where can people find you at?
I'm on Instagram at Laura_Long. And then I also have a Facebook page, Laura Long.
Amazing.
Is there anything else you wanted to share with us or share with the listeners?
Well, I just think that this is such a fantastic podcast that you're doing, and a great message, because so often we look at success stories, but we're not looking at people who are in it. And yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice to myself, as much as to anybody else who's still stumbling forward, is that the knockbacks don't stop coming, but just don't let them internalize into you.
That's just so good.
Just don't let them happen, and you can stick, and that will keep you stumbling forward. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show, Laura. This has been so great. And for everybody listening, be sure to head over to iTunes, to Spotify, all that good stuff. Give us 5 stars, leave us a review, and then you can see the video portion of this over on YouTube. So thank you again, Laura. This is so great.
Thanks.
Well, I'm your host, Monica Ortega.
And I'm Kristen Herman.
And we will see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.